welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, this week we're going to be taking a look at toxic relationships. We've seen all the headlines. We've heard of Nikki Yadav, who's a recent case, who was found with her body chopped up by her boyfriend. He had cut her body into pieces and locked, stored it in a fridge or something. The Shraddha murder case has been making the headlines for a few months now. Similar modus operandi. But it's not just one-sided, is it? Because we can't just have gender stereotyping and say women are always the victims. There are cases where even the men become the victims and they're not always the perpetrators. We have cases, in fact, of an IIT engineer recently whose death was ruled as suicide, but now there are, he was living with his girlfriend, but now, of course, there are allegations that it was instead murder. So there are instances. What my main question here today is that, this works both ways, but the toxicity in a relation, I think it builds up. It just doesn't come suddenly that one fine day one person murders the other. Why do the men or the women stay in a relationship which is toxic? Why are they being victims of abuse? What makes them stay on in such a relationship? We've heard of gaslighting. There are subtle ways. Abuse is not always physical. It's also verbal. It can be a strength of, it's not just physical strength, it's strength of one who has the financial purse strings. It doesn't happen in slums. It also happens in the mansions of Lutyens Delhi. This happens everywhere, really. So it's not gender specific, it's not class specific. It is something that we are dealing with in every strata of society almost every day. Some make it to the headlines, some don't. Joining me on the conversation today is we have Amit Lakhani. He's a lawyer and an activist who's also works against this gender stereotyping of domestic abuse and violence. He also is the president of the Men's Welfare Trust. We have Swati Saxena. She's a lawyer and she also works with the NGO Shanti Sayog and works a lot in domestic abuse cases. Sayantan Ghosh, columnist. He's written a lot of articles on toxic relationships. And Deepika Narayan Bhadwaj, she is a filmmaker. And in fact, Deepika, you've been highlighting a lot of these cases on your Twitter feed and timeline also, making a point that it's not just the women who are always the victims. There are other cases that don't make it to the headlines because they don't fit into a certain stereotype we have about men and women. So I'll let you tell us a few more about other instances.
Well, Priya, we have all been seeing what's the latest in Nikki Yadav's case. We've been hearing gory stories, and it's indeed a very, very shocking case. There's absolutely no iota of doubt that whether it's case like Nikki Yadav or whether it's case like Shraddha Walkar, these are very, very shocking cases. But what we do not really get to know is the other side. That relationships, violence within our homes is not gender specific, it is gender neutral. Just starting, when you asked me to join your show, I was just looking up how many husbands have been murdered by their wives. And in just last 3 days, there have been 4 murders where mostly these cases are where the woman has conspired with her lover and poisoned her husband or killed her husband, chopped him into pieces. There were cases in national capital also during the time Shraddha Walkar case happened where women killed their husbands. But that doesn't get reported. But the fact is there is a lot of violence that is happening within our relationships, within our homes. What is triggering it? What is the suppression that people are going through, or why are very regular people earlier in fact yesterday when I spoke to you that we have to do this show today, I was just thinking and deliberating that in earlier days we used to think that crimes and criminals are a very, very separate part of society. It's not in our day-to-day circle. It's not people we see, something like Aftab, something like any woman who is just next door to us. I recently did the maid abuse case in Gurgaon. I got the maid rescued by her employers. This lady Kamaljeet Kaur was brutally torturing this maid, and she's an everyday woman, right? So we don't see people who are just around us, resorting to something like this. And I think there needs to be a larger discussion on what's really happening in our relationships. So I would like to start with that.
Okay, good beginning. And yes, I agree with your point. Relationships can be between a maid and an employer also. It doesn't have to be just a spouse, husband, wife, live-ins. So Amit, we've heard Deepika's points, and I know that you're also someone who is working in, who's a petitioner in that whole taking a relook at the marital rape law also. So that's a discussion I'm going to have with you later on this particular topic of toxic relationships, if you want to add something.
Yeah, so Priya, we are seeing a pattern these days wherein we see a lot of such gender-based hate crimes, whether, like Deepika said, that there are up number of cases where men have also been victims, and we see the recent cases of Nikki Yadav, where a woman was a victim. So I will go in a very gender neutral way. So I believe that I would crimes they're happening wherein the victim has something in her or his possession or control that motivates the other person to resort to a crime. And I would want to dwell to the fact that this is also a facet of the ongoing gender war. So
Yeah.
I'll also give an example. For example, there is a we especially in cases of wherein the couple is living in a live-in relationship, like that was in the case of Nikki Yadav. So now what happens is that if it is a toxic relationship which is not a marriage and they're in a live-in relationship, and if the girl wants to step back and she says that I don't wish to continue the relationship, and I want to take an exit. So we need to understand that unlike marriages, live-in relationships are a walk-in and a walk-out relationship. The marriage may be on the cards or marriage may not be on the cards. But and when the girl takes a step back, all that the guy can do is to accept it, because there is no other way out. But in lot of cases these days, we see that when the guy says that I want to get out of this relationship, I don't feel that this can go any further or there can be marriage. We see that in lot of such cases, a rape case of rape on promise to marriage is filed on the guy. So I'm talking about the exit, the exit kind of a mechanism, which does not have a balance on both sides. So we see number of cases these days, because I being in a space where I get calls from a lot of men who are falsely accused, lot of cases wherein this relationship between two consenting adults, if it is not working out, if it is toxic, and the guy says that I want to get out of this relationship, there's a rape case on the husband and on the guy. And we have seen so many cases where the guy is forced to marry to the girl. We have seen so many cases where the bail was only granted on the basis where the guy was made to agree to that marriage, otherwise he would go behind bars. So this exit mechanism from a toxic relationship is also playing a very important role these days in the especially in the living relationship cases. And it can't be a one-way street. It has to be equal on both sides. And so many times we've seen like in this case, that men, when they see that they're getting destroyed, they get in a destructive mode and they resort to such very extreme steps. Although I completely condemn such kind of a brutal act, whether the victim is a man or victim is a woman. But sometimes what happens is that even the lot of criminal studies say that when something is very stringent, something is very biased on one side, then the person against whom the bias is, he resorts to such criminal acts, and that's what is happening in all these patterns that we see.
So the law is biased against the men, says Amit in a nutshell. Swati, what is your feedback? Because you've been working a lot with even people who are living in slums. Their financial independence becomes a big thing. But what makes men and women stay on in such relationships, in your point of view?
So the part where Amit Sora said ki women basically they do not the whole victim here is a man, that he doesn't have a choice to move out of a relationship, or he falls back to it. But this is not the case. The case is both men and women, they choose to stay in a relationship because they fear, firstly, they defy the societal norms. For example, if I talk about the grassroots level, they totally defy the grassroots norms or the societal norms that they falling in love, or an intercaste thing, or an interreligion thing, things like that. They fall in love, they want to stay together, they want to continue the relationship. So when you defy the whole society, you make it a point to prove it to them that you will make it work, you will somehow make it work. And especially in the case of women, it becomes even more highlighted, because for men, the society still accepts it. Okay, the society, for example, we all would have heard it कि घर पे या society में लड़कों से पूछ लेंगे कि तेरी girlfriend का क्या हाल है, or whom are you dating these days and stuff like that. But for a woman, for a girl, they do not allow even male friends. So
that is even today. Is that a thing? Sayantan, I'll bring you in. You got cut off. If you can, the role of, it's okay to break off. But these gruesome murders, the lengths at which people are going, how influential are the OTT platforms or the kind of movies, kind of YouTube videos that are being made? A lot of people, there is a lot of Me Too going on, isn't there, Sayantan?
Yes, I think that the looking into the recent reports, what has come in front of us, and also what Deepika was also talking about. So I think there is this gruesomeness. It's something, at least for me, this is something very new to me. Like I have like after Aftab, ek ke baad ek, these incidents are now coming out, and it's very disturbing for any one of us. And
Right.
I think that the OTT, many people have already talked about it, that OTT has played a role, the movies and whatever we see around us. And I'm, after this Nikki Yadav case, I'm seeing that these people, like whoever is doing it, they are not getting scared of the fact that the other people are in jail or getting trialed or anything.
Punishment is not scary enough. Yeah.
They are getting influenced by it, and they are learning from it, it looks like. And irrespective of the gender, this gruesomeness, this kind of anger of a people, to a person you either loved or did not love, or whatever, to anybody, it's very disturbing. And this must, this must stop. Of course this stop.
Of course, this must stop. But Deepika, he's also saying, OTT platform. I know I saw you this thing because you're the filmmaking fraternity over here. But there is a lot of Me Too copying that is going on.
Well, Priya, I think the larger discussion has to be on where exactly are our relationships moving forward. There is no doubt that the content that we are consuming, the Gen X or the millennials, they are not interested in watching these old romantic stories where everything is like, parents be involved ho rahe hain and marriage mein culminate ho rahi hain. The end game is marriage and things like that. Today, people are looking for quick comfort, quick pleasures, and that's something that we are seeing happening in our relationships as well. But when you resort to such temporary relationships, when you resort to such temporary, carnal desires, you tend to go down the black hole somewhere, and that is what we are seeing happening in these relationships. Whether it's the woman who is, absolutely dominatrix on the man, or it's the man who is absolute dominatrix on the woman, people are trying to control what they have. People are trying to possess what they have. And what is really, really essential to be discussed, I think it's 2023. There are, I totally agree with what Swati said there. For a woman, when she is into a relationship, the stakes are higher. She may, out of, love for the man, get into the relationship and, think that, it will culminate into marriage. And the stakes are obviously high for her, and I completely agree with her. The society judges, "Arey, ye to uske sath live-in relationship mein reh rahi thi 4 saal. Who's going to marry her?" But we cannot have this perspective. At the same time, we have a perspective where we are saying women are free to make their choices, and women are freely making their choices. So they will have to somewhere decide what exactly do they want, because like Amit said, live-in relationships are move in, move out. Anyone can eventually make a decision that I do not want to, continue this into a marriage. But when that discussion in marriage happens, let me tell you, Priya, there are just so many cases that we are seeing where when this live-in relationship, which is sort of a beneficial relationship that two people consensually get into, when the point of marriage comes, there is just too many contradictions. There are just too many fights. There are, anger boiling in from both the sides. So are we are we ready yet to bring in the whole concept of live-in relationship in Indian society? And if we are bringing it, it's all right if we are bringing it, but what you see in the West is that people understand that, you know, the choice of the other person, people understand. I mean, women probably are not looking into this will turn to, you know, end into a marriage, but India may live-in relationship. There's so many people, like Amit said, you know, are looking at these relationships from the lens of marriage, which I think is wrong, you know. So we need to decide, or we need to understand that, you know, this is a relationship of choice. There are no foundations here on anyone, you know. There are cases where men get really violent because the woman decides to get out. There are cases where women, you know, get back at the man filing a rape case because he decided to get out. So I think people need to understand whether we should stick to what our, you know, morality and values and culture was, or we are willing to accept live-in relationships as the norm, which will invariably result into, cases like this. It is evident.
Okay, I'm going to take a break and come back, and I want to discuss the concept of gaslighting, you know, because we were saying that abuse doesn't have to be physical, it is also verbal. So I'm going to come back and keep the conversation going on that front. Hello and welcome back to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Today we are here discussing toxic relationships. We've all seen the headlines on the Shraddha murder case and recently the Nikki Yadav murder case, where both the girls in cases were brutally murdered, cut into pieces, and kept locked up in their homes, in the fridges, while the body parts were disposed of one by one. These cases should have been a deterrent, but they actually have sparked off a sort of a Me Too wave. It's not just the women who are getting murdered. There are also cases where men are committing suicide through some harassment. And through this whole, Deepika, how would you explain gaslighting to our audience? It is a form of verbal abuse when you kind of taunt a person, when you kind of, make a person feel less than he or she is. But Deepika,
I think, Priya, what's happening really, like I said in the previous portion as well, what's happening really is this whole idea of possessing the partner that you have, and it's happening from both the sides. And I am yet to actually delve deeper into it, but I think there has to be a lot of discussion on. There are people who suffer through borderline disorder, narcissistic personalities. They're absolute narcissists, and the society needs to be more aware. Women and men both need to be more aware of these personality disorders, and a lot of gaslighting happens when the person is suffering from such disorders. They will make you feel that you are the wrong one. They'll make you feel that if you are taking a decision that is absolutely wrong for the relationship, they will, like you started off, or like Shantanu was saying, that even when this possession is dangerous, you are told that this is love, right? So this is classic example where somebody who is themselves very possessive, dangerously trying to own the person, tells the other person that this is all love. And these red flags really need to be discussed more. People need to know about these more. People need to make conscious choices, and that can happen only when they know that there are these red flags. Right now, these red flags are a symbol of love, some symbol of protection, symbol of care, but it is not.
Yeah, Swati, I can see you nodding. So would you like to come in on this, the red flags that one should look out for?
So basically, when I speak of gaslighting, it is all about manipulation of one person. So when we talk about violence, there is manipulation of intimacy. What happens is, many a times people come from a background, for example, our families, as ma'am said, society has to come with pace with the young generation, right? So society is not ready yet with the whole new concept, which is there, the live-in relationship, the whole friends with benefits, the everything that is coming along. So what happens is, back in our family, we follow a pattern, right? Whatever we see, we imbibe it, and we certainly use it or apply it in our future life. So what happens is, intimate manipulation occurs whenever violence is there, whenever fights are there, whenever arguments are there. The abuser, what he would do is, or what she would do is, they would use their love, their expressions of, I love you, or मान जाते हैं, let it be, we can work this out, there's a nicer future, there's always a sunshine after monsoon, things like that, they come into picture and we fall for it. We're like, theek hai, okay, ho jayega, let's just go with it. It's just, and also things depend upon your primary socialization. So what is happening is, even the circle we are moving around, they accept it. The whole society accept it. This is how it is. You have to allow whatever is happening, just go with the flow. This is nothing. This is part and parcel of a relationship. So I think all these factors lead to the whole gaslighting, and you do not recognize it. You do not recognize what is happening to you. जब तक आप recognize ही नहीं करोगे, you won't get to the other step of acting upon it.
Fair enough. Amit, do you want to come in on this? The other kind of abuse that is verbal and not just physical.
Yeah, so gaslighting is also a lot about the position of power, in a relationship.
Yes.
Who is in a stronger position of power? Who is controlling the other person? And like Deepika has also pointed out some psychological disorders, especially the obsessive compulsive disorders, and all these also lead to a person having a lot of desire to control the other person, to control the entire relationship as such. So it's absolutely like you said, the violence is not always physical. It starts with an emotional violence, and especially when it comes to emotional violence, men and women are at par, as perpetrators of a crime. And all this, the entire gamut of relationship and gaslighting it revolves around the position of power and who's controlling the entire relationship.
Okay. Santhan, red flags that one should watch out for? Other?
I think we, like, I have grown up in Kolkata. So in from very childhood, and when we grow up, we learn some very wrong things. We get very wrong ideas about relationship. I will give you an example that everything is right in love and war. ये हो ही नहीं सकता, ठीक है? हाँ. So in this way, when we have grown up, we have always seen our friends, our closed ones, talking about their partners, be it a man or a woman. They're talking about their partners that वो मेरा phone check करता रहता है, ठीक है? हाँ, she asked me to share her Facebook password also. So that I can keep a watch on what are the messages going on between them. Okay, and she wants to be friend with all my.
So the importance of setting boundaries. That's what you're.
Yeah, it's very important. But क्या करना चाहिए? I have my personal space, and these are at least I feel that these are the fundamental red flags continuously in a relationship we tend to ignore. And that's when, and if you start ignoring the red flags from the very first day, ये कुछ नहीं है, होता रहता है, then you will keep ignoring them. Then the relationship goes on, and then the toxicity increases, and you have to ignore that also. You have no other way to do. That's what I believe.
So, Swati, there is a very thin line between protecting and control, being protective of someone and wanting to control the person, someone, as our panelists have also pointed out.
Yeah, there is a very thin line difference between controlling and protecting. Controlling is, I don't have to go into the literal meaning, we all know it, but I think this controlling patterns come a lot from what we have inherited over the year, what we have imbibed from the society over the time. So basically we have been taught ki everything belongs to you. Once you settled in relationship in our society is always marriage. If it is a girl and a boy and a marriage kind of a thing, so it is always there in the head, this relationship has to end up into a marriage, and this person is my everything. I have to take control of it. I have to interact with the whole family. I have to know where is he, where she is. For example, if I talk about teenagers, I interact a lot with the children below the age of 18, both guys and girls. So what occurs is they would tell their friends, to keep an eye on the girl, or the girl would be asking his friends, her friends, the community, what is he up to, what is he doing, or she would try to build a contact with the family, the cousins and stuff, to know where the guy is, what is he up to, and what he likes, what he dislikes, what his family is like, and stuff like that. They want to get into each other, like totally the submerge into each other. And I think this pattern is wrong. We as a society have to tell them, you have to maintain your privacy. Even in a relationship as a husband and wife, you need to have your own boundaries, you need to have your own set of things to look forward to. As collective beings also, you have certain things to look forward to, but as individuals also, you have a life to lead. So once we recognize this, we would be able to handle a lot of problems which we
Very
are
good. Your
facing.
own me time and your own
Yeah.
space, the importance of that. Yeah, Amit, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I will just add a little thing to what Swati already said. In our society, especially the Indian society, right from the childhood, whether it is a boy or a girl, everything revolves around a successful relationship. So, your success is measured with your relationship. However successful you be in your, other walks, other profession or whatever, unless you are unless your relationship is a success, you are not a successful man or a woman. So a lot is around the success of a relationship, which puts a lot of pressure on these men and women to just make it work and just hold on, even in a toxic relationship, so that what the society will say, and how will they be perceived in the society. Even if they're doing very well in their careers and all that, if their relationship is not going well, they will not be seen as somebody who's there. So this also is a very important aspect of this entire discourse.
Correct.
If I may add, the prime example of what Amit sir has said is a woman getting a divorce. If she has a child who is into school, she every day will have to face that. The child will face that divorce.
Even today, is that even today?
Yes,
I mean,
Yeah, of course it is, of course, Priya. I mean,
Yes.
we would be being very thoughtful and ignorant if we think that things like these are not exist. They're permanent, no matter what society we are in. These issues, maybe at a societal level, some judgmental perspectives may go away, but at an individual level, it always impacts, because
but this is not just against the women, nah? It's even against.
No, it's both ways.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a
Absolutely
lot.
both ways.
It's a
Amit
lot.
also said
And this is
professionally
the
also
main.
there is, if you are married or not, there is a whole lot of, right now, because there is a blending of boundaries. So, whether you are unmarried as a divorced as a man or a woman, it works. And again, if you're not married, फिर उसका भी other problem होता है. Why she or he not married is something wrong. So you can't have it.
For example,
Me and
somebody
Amit are prime examples of
asked
facing
me-
that every day, no matter what we do in our life. We are pretty there. But it's a perspective no one will ever let go of. अच्छा ये तो शादीशुदा नहीं है, इसकी opinion तो
Yeah.
matter नहीं करती. There are people like that.
There are
And we
people
can't
like that.
do anything. One
Okay,
thing
so
that I
we're
really
totally out
wanted
of
to
time, but you've given me
just one thing
yeah.
very quickly I wanted to add, Priya, was I was listening to a TEDx talk, and I think everyone should listen to it. The art of relationship, and something the speaker very, very beautifully said is that our family and friends, there are our biggest well-wishers, and when they are seeing the red flags in your partner, don't think that they are jealous of your relationship. This happens so many times that people just ignore the advice given by their friends and family members about their partner, because they think that other people are very jealous of their relationship. But the fact is, they are not able to see in the other person what their well-wishers are able to see. So it is very, very important for people to introspect. If somebody is saying that something, this is wrong in your partner, that is wrong in your partner, sit back and reflect. Maybe you're just having a blind spot about that perspective. Another thing that I really wish to say is, either a man or a woman, please do not accept violence. Please do not accept violence. Say no to violence, whatever strata, किसी भी आप society के part हो. Violence एक बार अगर relationship में आ जाती है और आप उसको object नहीं करते हो, उसको deny नहीं करते हो, violence always has a tendency to increase from either side. So please take a step.
Please say, Seb. In fact, thank you all for this conversation and sharing your perspective on something. I think we've got a whole lot more topics coming out of this, so I'm sure I'll have all of you back. But thank you all for this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Priya.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.